You'll never be caught needing to replenish your stash again when you subscribe to Hemper's monthly smoking boxes. Hemper's hands down the best place to stock up on your smoking supplies no matter the occasion. Curated with innovative and hand-selected products to ensure you're getting the absolute highest quality accessories for your smoking experience, Hemper's monthly smoking subscription service provides $100 plus in value for only $40. There's also the convenient options to receive every month, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. And right now, use promo code HEDGE10 to get started and receive 10% off Hemper's box or the XL box at Hemper.com.
Lifted Drinks. Join the party, skip the hangover. Created by hemp and cannabis lovers, Lifted is an amazing, tasty, non-alcoholic beverage created to improve any evening in or weekend out. Lifted is 100% hemp cannabis, 100% consistent, 100% of the time. We could ship anywhere in the U.S. Just add ice or mix it with your favorite beverage. Check them out at lifteddrinks.com. That's LYFTED drinks.com. Enter in radio to get a 20% discount at checkout. You must be 21 or over to join the party and skip the hangover.
Today, we're going to take a look at a report on where the cannabis industry is at, the state of legalization. The industry is going to add $100 billion to the economy this year. So we're going to dive into a few reports about what all of that means coming up.
It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to The Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast.
Just as a recap, we saw ballot measures in 2020 that regulated adult use cannabis in Arizona, New Jersey, and Montana, and state legislatures in New York and Virginia, New Mexico, and Connecticut passed bills in 2021. So that means as the world is about to celebrate 710, we're bringing the tally of total regulated states to 18 plus DC. There are currently 37 states that have medical marijuana laws, including all that allow recreational use. Developments that we're kind of seeing across the East Coast, a lot of states over there are launching, and some are kind of trying to take a step back. South Dakota is trying to follow suit with Montana of having voter registration approved cannabis, and then one individual in office trying to remove all of that. So South Dakota, they had recreation and medical use cannabis in 2020, but the state Supreme Court ruled that the ballot measure on recreational cannabis was invalid for technical reasons after a complaint was funded by the governor. Regardless, the cannabis impact is going to be quite significant, looking at $100 billion added to the U.S. global economy between 2021 and 2026. When considering whether to approve regulated cannabis, advocates are touring the broader economic benefits. It used to be that the children, remember Charlotte's Web, the kids weren't getting seizures as much. Now it's really about the money. Times have changed. You're looking at the recession that I've been calling for the last 4 years. You can't continuously print money and not expect that inflation to come back to you. I want to check out some podcasts I did just a couple of years ago talking about all of that and what's happening right now. Again, you can't just have quantitative easing, print money, and not expect that inflation to come back home, especially when the petrodollar is no longer in existence. Germany, one of our number one allies, is buying Russian gas with rubles. So if you don't know what the petrodollar is and you don't understand inflation, watch some of those videos. A couple years later, all of that is starting to come to fruition. But those that have been watching The Talking Hedge aren't surprised, or at least you shouldn't be. Back to the benefits, the impacts exceeding tax dollars in Washington State. We saw that this year with cannabis sales tax exceeding that of liquor sales. So already seeing the benefits, economic benefits, and total economic impact of sales that is supposed to reach $99 billion, up more than 20% from last year. Cannabis industry encompasses agriculture and manufacturing, retail activity, and in some markets it includes events and hospitality. Now in Washington State, it's a Class C felony to maintain and operate a marijuana lounge, which includes events and hospitality. But those tend to have a higher economic impact than other industries. So for example, when you look at national parks, a national park has a multiplier of 6, whereas the hemp industry has a multiplier of 1.9. So the economic impact of the cannabis industry is not the same as supply chain revenue that's often used as estimates for total size of an industry, but the economic multiplier is painting a picture of the impact of the industry on a broader economy. So in this case, for every $10 consumers and patients spend at cannabis retail locations, an additional $18 will be injected into the economy, much of that at the local level. We're not going to see cannabis legalization this year, probably not until 2025. I'm guessing 1 year after the next election cycle. So we still have a few more years at the earliest, in my opinion, when we're going to see that. The bulk of the industry is going to be driven by a forecast period that's going to come from the East Coast as Western states are maturing or they're even saturated. If you look at some spots like Oregon, which Oklahoma is going to be twice as bad as that eventually. It's also Pride Month, so we're going to talk about LGBTQ consumers that are overrepresented compared to the general population and represent an interesting need state targeting opportunities for cannabis brands. Starting off by the market size, looking at the end of 2022, reaching $30 billion in annual sales, according to the Brightfield Group. They believe that's going to grow to $51 billion by 2027. That's half of what the MJBizCon or MJ Business Daily is projecting. Medical sales in the U.S. forecasted to reach $11.8 billion annually by the end of this year. And then the U.S. cannabis market as a whole expected to experience a compounded annual growth rate of about 11.5%. Medical cannabis products currently legal in 37 states, and another 6 have programs that are allowing for low THC products. And by the end of 2027, 6 additional states are expected to fully legalize and implement sales of medical cannabis. 4 markets are expected to have at least $1 billion. That's Florida, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, and California. Adult use cannabis products are now legalized in 18 plus DC, and 8 more expected to pass adult use by 2027, mostly in the East Coast. And yet to be launched markets are expected to be over 40% of sales by 2027. We'll be doing a pot shop crawl in Chicago in September, as well as New Jersey and New York. We'll be back in Vegas doing some more stores there. So you want to check out some pot shop crawls as you kind of check out what the local markets are doing, what they're offering, what everything looks like. Typically, when I do 20 stores on 420, 2 years later, those sales prices end up being the everyday low price 2 years later. So kind of gives me an idea where people are at, what the market's looking like. So check out some of those pot shop crawls. Looking at landscape for the East Coast, on track to be the first fully regulated adult use coast in the country, leapfrogging the West. As of 2022, annual adult sales in that region are just $2 billion, but expected to reach almost $11 billion by 2027. Medical cannabis sales are expected to decline slightly over that forecasted period, just like every other medical cannabis. Again, it doesn't make sense for people to spend money on a medical card when the discounts are so low. So you're going to go in there and get 10% off. That's not going to, you're not going to break even on your medical card. So most people don't get medical cards, myself included, until we can get, a co-op or farmers markets where, I'm not paying $1,800 for a pound at a farmers market, which is stupid. Prices need to come way down compared to what retail. Otherwise, people aren't going to do medical. Yes, the quality is better and all of those things. However, it really comes down to price and convenience. East Coast expected to have a compounding annual growth rate of 22.6%. That's going to be the fastest growing area in the U.S. over the next 5 years. In-state resident purchases are expected to constitute well over 80% of revenue, whereas Maine, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Vermont, those should be buoyed by visiting consumers or tourists. Hopefully that's not going to be as bad as what Vegas experienced when tourism just essentially stopped. 20% of cannabis consumers identify as bisexual, gay, or lesbian or other, according to Gallup. And consumers have lower to middle incomes, skew younger, and are more often women. LGBTQ consumers are more likely to consume multiple times per day compared to their cisgender counterparts, and they remain more likely to consume a broader range of products compared to industry benchmarks. See what people are smoking. Strains are crucial in determining consumer outcomes, and inhalable products like vapes and concentrates and flower, top 5 growing strains. Looks like a Black Domina is number 1. Sweet Tooth is number 1. Gorilla Glue is number 3, Purple Tie number 4, and then Chem Dog number 5. Interesting that Blue Dream is nowhere on there. That was the number 1 strain for a long time. Wedding Cake was really popular. I don't really see anything on there that has been, I mean, Gorilla Glue is the only thing that I've seen that's had consistent popularity. I ask bud tenders every time I go into the store, what is their favorite product, favorite strain, what's the most number 1 product being sold, and get a lot of strain information. And none of these strains are what I typically encounter. So I find this interesting. In the absence of federal legalization, descheduling cannabis can still represent regulatory advances without an onset. In the absence of federal legalization, descheduling cannabis can still present regulatory advances without onerous taxation, a boon especially to Eastern markets that are just launching their new market. Fully legalization in the Eastern Bloc is going to see out-of-state sales plummet to only about 20% of each state's total sales, and that's responding well to each other state's consumer needs. That's going to dictate winners and losers in those markets as out-of-state supporters dwindle down. Brands are set to take the lead across all markets, and those that can stand out from the competition through unique product features or special needs or occasions or targeting or specialty, those are going to be the winners. Heavy consumers typically consume a wide variety of products than non-daily cannabis consumers. And so branded houses could help foster loyalty with those types of consumers. I would probably disagree with that and say that people who consume a lot want the same thing, want consistency, and that's really hard to find. I cannot find a brand in Washington that consistently puts out the same strain over and over. It's really frustrating. So I'm going to be changing up the way that I consume. I've been consuming cannabis for 26 years, and I'm tired of it. I'm over it. I'm tired of the inconsistency on producers. I'm tired of the inconsistency on strain and availability. So I don't know what that means. I just know that I'm going to be changing the way I consume. I'm taking a 30-day hiatus right now. I do that every year to bring my tolerance down and remind myself that I can quit. Normally I do it in October, but MJBizCon was last October, and so I'm using that opportunity now before I fly overseas. I'm going to be in France for an event for 2 weeks. So rather than freak out not using cannabis, I'm doing it 2 weeks before. And then when I get back after my month-long hiatus, I'm going to reintroduce cannabis in a different way. I don't really know what that means yet. I might mess around with Delta 8 and see what that does to me. I've never tried it before. But if I can get, I don't really like isolates. I hate distillates. I don't like isolates. Actually, I hate them both. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I just know that the inconsistency and lack of availability of things are a frustration for me and many other people in the industry. And until they can figure that out, a lot of people won't switch from alcohol to cannabis until they can have consistency and routine availability. And that's not a thing. And I find that very frustrating. How do you guys feel about it?
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.
Are you looking for the next great cannabis business to invest in? Then you need to check out the MJ Bulls podcast. Hi, I'm Dan Humiston. Join me each week as I speak to both cannabis entrepreneurs who are raising capital and cannabis investors who are investing capital. Our 10-minute episodes are perfect for the busy investor. Start listening to the MJ Bulls podcast today, wherever you listen to podcasts, and who knows, maybe you'll discover the next cannabis unicorn.